Hello, everybody. My name is Louis. I'm an English teacher, and I'm here today to help you improve your IELTS vocabulary. So I think it's helpful in this lesson to have a notebook. And when we get to the vocabulary, it'd be good to write down the words, okay? So that's all you need to prepare for this. I think we'll just begin. So let's go. Today's agenda, we're going to be talking about words related to these three concepts: addition, equation, and conclusion. So addition is like this plus that. The most common addition word is and, but we're going to be learning a lot of other words that you can use. If you don't want to use and, you can use many other words. Equation is like this is equal to that, equal. So we're going to be learning words like equally or in the same way, phrases like this. And words of conclusion. So this is like therefore, to sum up, thus. We're going to be learning words like that. So we're going to do the overview of the vocabulary, and then we're just going to practice using them in a fill in the blanks exercise. So basically, the goal of this session is to give you the opportunity to review words that can be used to link and expand upon ideas, as well as to conclude thoughts. These words make your spoken English sound more professional and polished, okay? So let's begin. These are all of the words we're going to be learning today. And some of them are phrases and not words, but I'm just going to read them all and you can follow along. And this would also be a good time to write these in a notebook because we're going to need these words later on. So along with, also, and, as well as, besides, correspondingly, equally, furthermore, in addition, in brief, in conclusion, in the same way, likewise, moreover, similarly, thus, therefore, to conclude, to summarize, to sum up briefly. We can conclude that, what's more. All of these words can be used for one of the three functions: addition, equation, or conclusion. So if you haven't wrote these words down, please pause the video and do that. And here's the chart, which tells us what category each phrase or word belongs to. You can see the words in the addition category. We all use and all the time, but maybe you want to use a different word. I can say, I like coffee and tea. Or I can use all of these other phrases. Okay, I can say, I like coffee. I also like tea. Or some of them you have to put at the beginning, like besides. You could say, besides coffee, I also like tea. Or in addition. In addition to coffee, I also like tea. Or you could say, I like coffee, and moreover, I like tea. So there's a certain way to use all of these words. And I recommend that you look online, go to a website called Word Hippo, Hippo. It's like a dictionary, but it shows you examples of how to use the word. So if you go to Word Hippo and you type in besides, it'll give you a list of like probably 100 sentences that shows you how to use it. Because we just don't really have time in this lesson to really go deep into each phrase. You can see the words of conclusion. If you want to finish a paragraph or a thought, use one of these. You can say, to summarize, I like coffee and tea. So this is after you've been talking for a while. Then you say this. You say, in brief, these are the drinks I like, or something like that. And equation, these ones are difficult. It's meaning that two things are kind of the same, right? So I could say that dogs are very sweet. Similarly, cats are also sweet. I could say, I like coffee equally as much as T. And in the same way that dogs are sweet, so are cats. Likewise is also like this. Dogs are sweet. Likewise, cats are very cool as well. So it's going to be more helpful to see a real sentence. So let's go on to fill in the blanks. The first one, okay. Tourism brings much needed money to developing countries. It provides employment for the local population. What kind of word should we use here? Should we use addition or equation? Well, sometimes you can use both, but I'll just give you an example. We can use addition, okay? Tourism brings much needed money to developing countries. In addition, it provides employment for the local population. Tourism brings much needed money to developing countries. Correspondingly, it provides employment for the local population. Okay, I'm going to try to see if you can use any other words in there. And if you leave a comment with your sentence, I'll let you know if it's correct. Okay, so the next one. The blank is at the beginning of the sentence. So that limits our options. We can't use and here. We can't use also. Those words are usually in the middle of the sentence. So what we're going to do is use besides, okay? Besides bringing much needed money to developing countries, tourism provides employment for the local population. You could also use in addition to. In addition to bringing much needed money to developing countries, tourism provides employment for the local population. So I used addition phrases for the first two. And the third one, we're going to use equation, okay? Tourists should respect the local environment. Likewise, they should respect the local customs, because these things are equal. Respecting the environment is equal to respecting the local customs. Could also use equally. Could say, equally, they should respect the local customs. Can you think of another word that we can put in there? Well, you don't have to think of it. You can just check your list. I hope you have written down all the vocabulary in a notebook. Okay, the next sentence, blank industrial waste, pollution from car fumes is poisoning the environment. So here I would use along with, an addition word. Along with industrial waste, pollution from car fumes is poisoning the environment. The next one, in order to travel, you need a passport. Blank, you might need a visa, immunization jabs, and written permission to visit certain areas. I would use an equation word here. I would say similarly, because needing a passport is equal to needing visa, immunization. So we can say similarly, you might need a visa, immunization jabs, and written permission to visit certain areas. Or we could also say likewise. This is a good place to use likewise. Okay, now drugs are banned in Britain. Blank, weapons such as guns and knives. So I would also use equation here. I would say likewise, weapons such as guns and knives. So this is really just a good place for likewise, okay? In not every sentence can you use all the words. The words have different functions, and this is why, as I said before, you can search on word hippo to find a lot of examples of these words, okay? Here's the last one. All power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I would use addition here. I would say all power corrupts. What's more, absolute power corrupts absolutely. You could also use equation. Like I said, there's places where you can use both. So you could say all power corrupts. Likewise, absolute power corrupts absolutely. You shouldn't smoke, drink, take drugs, or eat unhealthy food. Now we're going to use a concluding phrase. I can say, to sum up briefly, you should live a more healthy lifestyle. Another example, you could say, therefore, or thus. Thus, you should live a more healthy lifestyle. And let's look at the final example. It says, the ozone layer is becoming depleted. The air in the cities is becoming too dirty to breathe, and our seas and rivers are no longer safe to swim in. Now we can use a conclusion word here. To summarize, pollution is slowly destroying the planet. We could say, in conclusion, pollution is slowly destroying the planet. We have one more example. Your grades have been very poor for the past 2 years. Blank, you need to work really hard if you want to pass your exam next month. This would also be a concluding phrase. I would say, therefore, you need to work really hard if you want to pass your exams next month. Sorry about that. Okay, so can you think of another conclusion phrase to put here? We have therefore, thus, in brief, to summarize. Okay, now we're just going to look at some ways to practice. I've already mentioned some of these, but there's a couple more. So first, you should write the vocabulary in a notebook. I find that writing often helps me to crystallize my memories. And then look online to find examples of the vocabulary in sentences. I mentioned the website Word Hippo. Word Hippo is really good. And then you can write your own sentences using the vocabulary. Use the examples on Word Hippo as your guide. You can write in the same format. And finally, try using the words in your spoken English. So do you have a friend or a colleague or language partner who you can speak to? Try to have your notebook with these words and try to use them when you are talking to your friend. And I'm going to be making more videos about this IELTS vocabulary. This is only lesson number 1. So please support the channel. You can subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment. I really appreciate feedback, and I will answer your questions in the comments. So thank you so much for watching. Good luck studying. Hello guys, my name is Louis. I'm a teacher, and in this video, we're going to be going over IELTS vocabulary. And this is a part of a course. So this is lesson number 2. So today we are going to be talking about geography, vocabulary, and also nationalities. Okay. So first we're going to have some vocabulary overview, and then multiple choice and countries and nationalities. And then I'm going to tell you how to practice. Okay. Because after you've done this video, you want to practice on your own. So let's do it. This is the vocabulary. Okay, we start off with 3 words involving East: the Near East, the Middle East, and the Far East. These are all specific types of the world. The Near East are countries closer to Europe, and even part of Europe in some cases, including Turkey. The Middle East is the area where the countries Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Israel, they're in the Middle East. And the Far East is Asia, like China, Korea, and Japan. Then we have the Arctic and the Antarctic, as well as Antarctica. So these words are interesting because the Arctic, it comes from a Greek word which means bear. So in the Arctic, which is in the north, we have polar bears. That's how I remember this. The Arctic has bears, and Antarctic, it's kind of like no bears, Antarctic. And there's no bears in the Antarctic, but there are penguins. So that's how I remember it. Then we have Australasia. This is Australia and New Zealand combined into Australasia. The Indian subcontinent, it's an area which includes India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. The Baltic republics are a group of countries in Eastern Europe. Latin America are some countries in Central and South America. It's called Latin America because in those areas they speak Spanish, and in Brazil they speak Portuguese. Both of these languages come from Latin. Southern Africa, often confused with South Africa. South Africa is a country. Southern Africa is simply the southern part of the continent Africa. It's funny, you can also have Southern South Africa. So this is the southern part of the country South Africa. Continental Europe is just the part of Europe not including any of the islands like the UK. The Gulf states are some regions near the UAE, as well as Oman, Qatar. These are called the Gulf states. And Scandinavia is the northern part of Europe, including Norway, Denmark, and Finland. Here's the multiple choice. Oh, I should mention, before we go on to that, please write down the vocabulary in a notebook. It will really help. Multiple choice, page 1. Japan, Korea, and Taiwan are all in the... Pause the video, please. Okay, did you guess the answer? It's the Far East. The South Pole is situated in the Antarctic. What's the difference between Antarctic and Antarctica? It's very important for your grammar. So it depends on if we're using the word the before. We can say the Antarctic, or we can simply say Antarctica without the. New Zealand is part of, which one? Australasia. Multiple choice, page 2. Bangladesh is part of, do you know? The Indian subcontinent. Before I answer the question, make sure you pause the video and try to answer yourself. Guatemala is a country in, are you ready? Central America. Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Panama, and Honduras all form part of what is often referred to as Latin America. Why is it not Spanish America? Because in Brazil, they speak Portuguese. Multiple choice, page 3. Botswana is in Southern Africa. England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland are known collectively as the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom and the Republic of Ireland are part of Europe, not continental Europe. Okay, multiple choice, page 4. Kuwait, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates form part of what are known as the Gulf states. Denmark, Finland, Norway, and Sweden are known collectively as Scandinavia. Bangkok, Lima, and Tunis are examples of what kind of cities? They're capital cities, but is it capital with an A or an O? It's with an A, capital with an A. Okay, now we're going to look at the countries with their nationalities. There's 4 pages. Here's the first one. Afghanistan, Afghan. Argentina, Argentinian. So what's the difference between these 2 words? Well, the country is usually used as a noun. It's a thing, whereas the nationality is used as an adjective. It can describe a noun. So you can say, I live in Afghanistan, that place. Or you can say, I am an Afghan person. Or that is Afghan food. That is Afghan flag. So some of them are kind of straightforward, like Australia and Australian, or Canada and Canadian. But some of them are unique and they don't particularly follow any rules, like Denmark. Denmark, Danish. England, English. Well, I guess Danish and English are a little bit similar. What about Belgium? Belgium and Belgian. It's important to remember all these because when you're speaking about the countries, you want to make sure you're using the right word. Here's page number 2. Finland, Finnish, Greece, Greek, India, Indian. I'm not going to read them all, but you should definitely study this list. Here's page number 3. Malaysia, Malaysian, Mexico, Mexican. Look at this one, the Netherlands, Dutch. Those 2 words seem like they're not related at all. Same with Philippines and Filipino. Okay, number 4. Which ones are the most unusual? Well, probably Switzerland and Swiss. Or perhaps Wales. I'm from Wales. I am Welsh. They don't seem to be related. Okay, now let's think about how can you practice. So first, as I've already mentioned, write the vocabulary in a notebook. By writing in a notebook, you can really crystallize these words in your memory. You could also look at a map and try to find each region. You have your notebook and you say, oh, the Gulf states. Then you look at the map, you try to find where it is, because this will help you form a mental picture of the words. You can also do geography quizzes. So this really helps you not only learn geography, but also practice your English. Go to this website, geographyquiz.org. And finally, you can try using the words in your spoken English. So hopefully you have some friends with whom you can speak English. Or if you don't, maybe you could use a teacher. I teach lessons and you can contact me either through my email, which is in the description, or you can go to italki and search for my name, also in the description. So in the meantime, I hope you support the channel by subscribing and liking and even leaving a comment. It's really helpful. And I'm going to continue posting videos for IELTS vocabulary. It will be quite a long course. And remember, this is only lesson number 2. So you can check out the first lesson if you've missed it. Just go to my channel and you can find it. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope to see you in the next one. Good luck studying. Hello, welcome to IELTS vocabulary course number 3. My name is Louis. I'm a professional teacher, and today we're going to be talking about words to describe changes. Okay, so we're mainly going to be using verbs and adverbs to do this. So here's the agenda. Introduction, vocabulary overview, usage practice. And for this, we'll do fill in the blank, and we'll also make our own sentences. The next part is a long answer, where I will give you an assignment and you have to create a long answer, like 2 paragraphs, using some of the verbs and adverbs we have learned. And finally, I'll tell you how to practice on your own. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video because that is very important. Okay, just a short introduction here. In English, there are many verbs which describe change. It is important to know these verbs because they often have precise and subtle meanings. There are also many adverbs which modify the verbs. The adverbs are also very expressive and precise, so it's important to know exactly what they mean. Let's go right into the vocabulary. Here are the verbs: decline, decrease, drop, fall, fluctuate, go down, go up, peak at, reach a peak of, remain constant, remain steady, and rise. So some of these verbs mean go down, decline, decrease, drop, fall. Some of them mean go up, increase, rise, and fluctuate. Do you know what fluctuate means? It means up and down. Something is changing, it's going up and down. And when we say reach a peak, that means we're talking about the highest point of something. Okay, and here's the adverbs: dramatically, gradually, sharply, slightly, steadily. Dramatically means a lot. So if I say the price of oil declined dramatically, it means the price went down a lot. Gradually means a little bit each time. For example, my monthly income declined gradually. Every month it went down. Sharply is similar to dramatically. It means something has changed a lot, so we can say that the number of students rose sharply. Slightly and steadily. Well, slightly is just a little bit. So if the price of oil just decreased a little bit, we can say that the price of oil went down slightly. And steadily is kind of like gradually. It's been going up or down at a steady pace, okay? Remain steady. And 2 extra nouns, a downward trend and an upward trend. This is referring to a pattern of something, if it's going up or if it's going down. It's a lot easier to look at these in context. So let's look at some charts. The first one is the number of students attending 4 language schools over the course of 4 months. So May, June, July, and August. And we also have the student numbers on the side. The 4 schools are called Briarwood School of English, Windsor Language Center, Speakeasy School of Languages, and Harefield College. Before we go on, I should mention, you need to write these words down on a piece of paper, on a notebook, because we're going to do fill in the blanks right now, and you need to remember these words. So we're going to do a question about this chart. Okay, it says between May and August, student numbers at the Briarwood School of English. Now, Briarwood is the first column, the lightest color. We can use 3 different verbs here. So, do you know the answer? We can use increased, rose, or went up. Okay. This is past tense. Okay. past simple. Okay, number 2. Between May and August, student numbers at the Windsor Language Center. What happened? The Windsor Language Center, that's the second column. We can use 5 different verbs here. Pause the video and try to find all 5. Okay, I'm going to go to the answers now. Declined, decreased, dropped, fell, went down. 5 different options. Number 3. Between May and August, student numbers at the Speakeasy School of Languages. Speakeasy, that's the third column. Did they go up or did they go down? Here's the answer. They remained constant or they remained steady. They didn't change. Okay, number 4. Between May and August, student numbers at Harefield College. May and August, Harefield College, the black column. They went up and down. Can you remember which verb meant up and down? It's fluctuate, and this is past tense, so we say fluctuated. They were at the highest in June, so we say they peaked at 120 in June, or they reached a peak of 120 in June. Okay, now we're going to talk about petrol prices, the price of gas or oil or petrol. So January till October, it shows the price per liter. 110 per liter in January, 160 per liter in October. So we're going to talk about the changes month to month. Okay, so number 1, between January and April, petrol prices increased. Okay, are you ready? Gradually or steadily? Just a little bit each month. In May, petrol prices fell. Are you ready? Slightly. They fell a little bit. In June, petrol prices rose. What do you think? Which adverb can we use here? Dramatically or sharply? Number 4, overall, there has been an, we haven't really talked about this word yet, upward trend. There has been an upward trend in petrol prices. That means it has gone up overall. There were only a few months when it went down slightly, but it's basically been going up all year. There's been an upward trend. Now it's time for a long answer. I will display a graph which shows the number of visitors to 3 seaside towns over a 5-month period. What's a seaside town? It's just a town beside the ocean. Okay, you need to write a longer answer, about 1 or 2 paragraphs summarizing the information in the graph, and use the vocabulary we learned today, the verbs and the adverbs, which you should have already written down on a notebook. Some of you don't want to practice writing, so don't write the answer. Just pause the video and try to speak, try to use all the words in a sentence to describe the following graph, and here it is. Visitors to seaside towns from April to August. Number of visitors times 1,000. Okay, Seahaven, Bridgeport, West Hampton. So pause the video and write an answer or just practice speaking. I'll give you 5 seconds to pause and do that. Okay, hopefully you have finished your answer now. And I'm going to show you an example. So this is something that you could have said or you could have wrote. The number of visitors to Sea Haven increased steadily between April and June, then rose dramatically in June, and continued to go up in August. For the first 4 months, visitor numbers to Bridgeport fluctuated and then fell sharply in the final month. West Hampton visitor numbers remained steady from April to June, then increased slightly in July and finally reached a peak of 11,000 in August. Overall, there was an increase in the number of visitors to Sea Haven, or you could say there was an upward trend, and West Hampton, but a decline or a downward trend in the number of people visiting Bridgeport. So I hope that you had an answer similar to that. If not, you can study this and write it down and practice reading it. So that's the end of the lesson, but we should go over how to practice. First, write the vocabulary down. Next, I've included a link in the video description to some interesting graphs. You can look at these graphs and try to describe what's happening in the graph using the verbs and adverbs we learned today. Next, maybe you can write a comment which includes some of the verbs and adverbs that we learned, and then you can check to see if you're using it right, because I will respond or somebody else will respond. And finally, incorporate these verbs into your spoken English vocabulary. So do you have a language partner with whom you can speak English, or do you have an English teacher? I do teach English, and you can find my email in the description, and I can teach you. I'm also on a website called italki. You can just search for my name, which is also in the description. So don't forget to support the channel, subscribe, and like and comment. And I'll see you next time for lesson number 4 in the IELTS vocabulary course. Okay, good luck studying. Hello guys, welcome to Dearstream English. In this lesson, I want to go over verbs which talk about change. And there's so many verbs which we use to describe change in English that it can be quite overwhelming and confusing. So I want to break it down for you and give you examples as to how you can use all of these verbs. Now, there's quite a lot here, so we're going to break it up into 2 parts. And for part 1, these are the verbs we're going to do: adjust, alter, deteriorate, exchange, fade, reduce, renovate, swell, switch, and vary. So hopefully you know some of those. If you don't know all of them, it's okay. We're going to talk about them as we go through the examples. And that's what we're going to do today. We're just looking at examples. So the first one, alter. Moving to the countryside radically altered our lifestyle. So our lifestyle really changed when we moved to the countryside. We say alter. And some people choose to alter their appearance with surgery. Or if you're going to get plastic surgery to change the way that you look, we say alter your appearance. Okay, switch. I think you probably know switch. By switching to a different provider, it can be possible to pay much less for your mobile phone bills. All right, so if you're switching to a phone company, you say switch. I already said it, switch. If you're changing companies, we say you're switching. I chose drama as an extracurricular activity, but switched to photography a few weeks later. Okay, if you're doing one activity, but you want to change to another activity, you can say, I switched activities. Adjust. It can take time to adjust to living in a different country. If you move to a new country, your life is going to change and your mind is going to have to change as well. So you have to adjust. Prices seem low, but when you adjust them to allow for tax, they are considerably higher. Okay, we have prices, but then we adjust them for tax and they are higher. Fade. This is when something goes away slowly. The noise built up rapidly, and then just as quickly, it faded into the distance. As the applause faded, the speaker started talking. In both of these examples, we're talking about noise, which is going away, fading away. And if you don't know, applause is after a show or a speech or a movie, the audience applauds. And when they stop doing this, we say the applause faded. Vary, coming from the word variation, it means that there is a high degree of difference between the outcomes. The amount of tax you pay on a car varies according to the amount of carbon dioxide it emits. Some people pay high tax, some people pay low tax. It varies. People's reactions to the medicine vary a lot, with some people complaining it has no effect at all. Some people have a strong reaction, some people have no reaction. The reaction varies. Reduce. This is when you try to make something less. Everyone should try to reduce the amount of fat in their diet. Depends what kind of fat. Some fat is good, some fat is not good. Many companies were forced to reduce their workforce during the recession. Recession is a time when the economy was not good, so the company had to have less employees, reduced their workforce. Economic crises often deteriorate into social unrest. Crises is the plural for crisis, and deteriorate means something is getting worse, to make something worse. So the economic crisis is bad, but then social unrest is even worse. The weather deteriorated rapidly when it started raining and the winds picked up. The weather got worse. Right? The weather was pretty bad, but then it got even worse. Swell. Ankles and other joints often swell when people travel by air. Swell, to get bigger. The town is home to 3,000 people, but this figure swelled to 12,000 in that same summer. You can use this to talk about populations too. The population swelled, it got bigger. Exchange. The tokens can be exchanged for food in the student canteen. A token is like a coin, it's like money. You can give it to someone and they'll give you food. It's an exchange. Shops will normally exchange damaged goods if you have the receipt. The receipt is that little piece of paper they give you when you buy something. You give that to them and they'll usually give you money back. Renovate. Businesses in the city center were offered funding so they could renovate their premises. Their premises, that's their location, their office building, where they work, the physical location. So renovate is to change the building, update it, improve the furniture, paint the walls, maybe tear down some of the walls. You want to make it different, make it nicer. In some cases, it can be more expensive to renovate an old building than knock it down and build a new one. Changing the old building is cheaper. It's more expensive than building a new one. Why? I'm not sure exactly. That's kind of confusing. Part 2. I hope that the first part was okay, but we're going to move on to these verbs. Adapt, cut, decline, disappear, expand, improve, promote, relax, replace, transform. How many of these verbs did you already know before watching the video? Let me know in the comments. The first one is replace. Email has largely replaced the traditional letter as a means of written business communication. So replace means when you had something old, but a new thing comes and the new thing replaces, it changes it, takes it over. We don't use the old thing anymore. It has been replaced. The plan is to replace all the old desktop computers in the library with notebooks or netbooks. A netbook is a kind of computer. Adapt. Some companies are slow to adapt to a changing market. Adapt is when you have to change the way that you do business or change your behavior or change your mind. You need to adapt, okay? Courses can be adapted to suit the needs of individual students. So the course was not perfect. It needed to be changed so that the student can learn from it. So we can adapt our business performance. We can adapt our teaching style, our courses. These are some of the ways that you can use adapt. Disappear. The symptoms of illness, sorry, that's plural. The symptoms of illnesses like measles aren't usually serious and disappear within a few days. Disappear means go away, it's gone. As the sun disappeared behind the clouds, the temperature quickly dropped. Where's the sun? It's gone, disappeared. Promote. So you have a job right now. If you want to get a better job at the same company, you have to be promoted. A college course can help you find a job or get promoted at work. The Peter Principle is a theory which says that in a big company, everyone eventually gets promoted to a job that is beyond their ability. I've never heard that before. Is that true? Relax. Okay. This means to make something less stressful, less intense, less tight. Make something easier. Some people think that the government should relax the rules regarding building on protected land. For the final part of the exercise, you need to repeatedly tighten, then relax your stomach muscles. So this is tight, this is relaxed. Tight, relaxed. Improve. The government's aim in the next 5 years is to improve educational standards. Improve means to make something better, uplift the standards. The best way of improving your English is to practice using it as much as possible. That's right. So you can improve educational standards, or you can improve English. Expand. This is when something gets a little bit bigger. Water freezes in the pipes, forcing them to expand and burst. The pipe is in your wall where the water runs through to your sink, and if it's cold, it can expand. Britain's universities expanded at an unprecedented rate at the end of the 20th century. Okay, the universities got bigger, expanded. So universities can expand and pipes can expand. A lot of things can expand. You can expand your horizons, your future. Cut means to stop doing something, or to make something much smaller. Cut, like kind of like scissors. But it's different here because it's talking about money. Supermarkets cut prices on many basic items to attract more customers. So the price used to be high, but now it's lower. It was cut. I believe that governments should increase spending on the arts instead of cutting it. Yeah, they should spend more money. They should not cut the money. Transform. Email and social networking websites have transformed the way people communicate. So transform means to basically just change something into something else. You may have seen the blockbuster Hollywood movie called Transformers, where it's robots, but they can change into cars or airplanes or trucks. So transform is a verb which means to change from one thing to another thing. Decline. Something is going down, getting worse. The number is going down. House prices are so high that the number of people buying their own home has declined in the last 5 years. Because so many people are out of work, living standards are declining rapidly. Yeah, that's right. So housing prices can decline and living standards can decline, among other things, of course. Okay, so a little review. The words that we learned today are as follows: adjust, alter, deteriorate, exchange, fade, reduce, renovate, swell, switch, vary, adapt, cut, decline, disappear, expand, improve, promote, relax, replace, transform. All of these words can be used to describe change. And I hope that you now have a clearer picture as to how to use these words. If you want to practice, you can, first of all, write all the verbs in your notebook. I find writing is very helpful to crystallize things in your memory. Write one sentence using each word. Make your own sentences. Read news articles online and look for how the verbs are being used and why. And finally, incorporate these verbs into your daily spoken English vocabulary. I think that would be very helpful. And you can continue practicing right now because I'm going to show you all of the questions again, the fill in the blanks that we just went over. And you can see if you can remember the answer and put the verb in the right place, okay? So for the rest of the video, I'm just going to put on some music and allow you to try to use the verb in the right place. So good luck. And try to support the channel too. You can subscribe, comment, or you can like. It's very helpful. All right, good luck. All right, I hope you master all of these verbs. Okay, I'll see you next time.
great stories, Mr. Fergal. The ones that really matter. Full of darkness and danger.
Hello, guys. Welcome to IELTS Vocabulary Course number 5. My name is Louis. So this course will help you improve your vocabulary, even if you're not preparing for the test. So you can still watch this course if you're not preparing for the test. Today is very special because we're talking about conditions. So what is that? Well, this is when we want to express something that is conditional or dependent on something else. So sometimes we say something that's dependent on something else, right? For example, you can borrow my car if you fill it up with gas. If borrowing the car is conditional on filling it up with gas. If you do not fill it up with gas, you cannot borrow it. So a lot of times we use the word if in this situation, but we can use other phrases too, which sound more professional and which actually sound a little better. So for example, you can borrow my car provided that you fill it up with gas. So we simply replaced if with provided that, okay? And the second example, students can go home early if they've finished their work. What can we replace if with? On the condition that students can go home early on the condition that they've finished their work. Does that make sense? So these are conditionals. So we're going to look at all of these words or phrases today, providing that, unless, on the condition that, as long as, no matter how, however many, wherever. So let's go right into some examples. First, we're going to look at examples, and then you're going to have to create your own sentences near the end of the video. You got to be creative, okay? I'm also going to give you some tips at the end for how you can practice, because it's very important. Providing that. I should get my assignment finished this weekend if I have enough time. It's perfectly fine to say that, but maybe you want to spice up your vocabulary. Maybe you want to sound more professional. You could say, I should get my assignment finished this weekend, providing that I have enough time. That sounds better. Unless. You can't go to university if you don't get good exam grades at school. You can't go to university unless you get good exam grades at school. Unless is a fairly common. I'm sure you're familiar with this one. So we won't linger. Let's move on. Next one, on the condition that, okay? Students can use the common room in the evening if they tidy up any mess they make. How do we replace if with something else? Do you know? We can say, students can use the common room in the evening on the condition that they tidy up any mess they make. So I guarantee if you use these phrases in your speech, you're going to sound so professional and just so good. As long as. Pollution will get worse if we continue to live in a throwaway society. Pollution will get worse as long as we continue to live in a throwaway society. Throwaway society is just having a culture where we don't recycle. We put everything in the garbage. We use it once and throw it away. No matter how. Here we usually have no matter how much, no matter how many. You can also have no matter how hard, no matter how soft. You can have an adjective too. But here we go. Children will always prefer fast food to fresh fruit and vegetables, even if you tell them how unhealthy it is. Children will always prefer fast food to fresh fruit and vegetables, no matter how much you tell them how unhealthy it is. Could also say, no matter how many times you tell them how unhealthy it is. No matter how much, no matter how many times. Both are good. However many, computer programming is complicated, even if you read a lot of books about it. Computer programming is complicated, however many books you read about it. And wherever. Crime is a problem, even if you live in a small town or in the countryside. Crime is a problem wherever you live. Okay? So these are all phrases which can express condition. Something is dependent on something else. Now it's time for you to create your own sentences, put on your creativity hats, and you should speak, say, or write your own sentence here. British universities will accept students from abroad. That's the beginning of the sentence, okay? You need to finish the sentence. What goes at the end? British universities will accept students from abroad. I'm going to go to the answer. On the condition that they have high grades, providing that they have high grades, as long as they have high grades. These are not the only correct answers. Perhaps you could think of something else. This is just what I thought of. Number 2, working for a large company can be a fulfilling experience. What's the condition? Try to add a condition. I'll go to the answer in 3, 2, 1. Providing that you love your industry. Unless you have a different passion, on the condition that you are well paid. So we have 3 very different examples here. If you have an alternative answer, write it in the comments and I can correct it for you, or I can congratulate you on your creative genius. Number 3, the environmental situation will continue to worsen. Answer in 3, 2, 1. Unless we do something to fix it. As long as we keep polluting, no matter how many times we complain. You can do other answers too. That's the thing. I love this because it allows you to be creative. There's so many different opportunities to finish the sentence. That's great. Number 4, traveling helps you understand more about the world around you. What's the condition? Pause the video. Okay, answer in 3, 2, 1. Providing that you have an open mind wherever you go. Doesn't matter where you go. You could go to Paris, you could go to Spain, doesn't matter. Unless you are closed-minded. So that's a different condition. So you won't understand more about the world if you're closed-minded, unless you are closed-minded. So that's basically it. How can you practice? I would recommend writing all of these phrases and words in a notebook first. I got my notebook here. I have a lot of phrases. I occasionally read it just to memorize them. And then I write a sentence using each phrase. You go a step further, not just writing the phrase, you're creating a sentence. Creativity is crucial. And now, what else can you do? You can get a language exchange app. Do you know any of these apps where you can talk to people around the world in your language that you're learning? And when you're talking to them, you can use these phrases in your messages. See how they respond. Finally, reach out to me for amazing English lessons. I teach private lessons on Zoom, Skype, Hangouts, whatever app you use, I use it too. And I would love to help. So if you want private lessons, send me an email. The address is in the description of the video. And support this YouTube channel. Subscribe, comment, like, share. Have a great day. Good luck studying. Welcome back to the IELTS vocabulary course. This is lesson number 7, and it's all about inferring the meaning of a word through context. Sometimes you don't know what a word means, but you can still usually guess the meaning. You can at least come close to guessing the meaning. And this course is for people who are hoping to improve their vocabulary at an intermediate or advanced level. So there's a playlist with all the other IELTS lessons, and it's good for preparing for the test, but that's not the only purpose. It's also good just for anybody hoping to improve their vocabulary. Here's a little introduction to today's lesson. How can we infer the meaning of a new word? Sometimes we come across a word which we have not yet learned. In this situation, we can infer the meaning of the word by context. We can ask, what is the paragraph about? What is the sentence about? And what information comes before and after the word? We can also consider the word's function. Is it a noun, adjective, verb, adverb, or something else? If it's an adverb, for example, then we know that it's answering the question, how? An adverb describes an action, usually. So the function of speech is also important when we're trying to infer the meaning. Here's an example. Imagine we don't know the word coherently, and we read this paragraph. He writes coherently on the subject, beginning by looking at the basic facts before discussing progressively complex theories without once confusing his readers. So it has ly at the end, so we can see that it's an adverb. It comes after writes, so it's describing how he writes. How does he write? He writes coherently. And if we look at the rest of the information, we can see at the end it says, without once confusing his readers. He doesn't confuse his readers. So that must mean his writing is clear and easy to understand. And that's the definition of coherent. It means sticking together, cohering, marked by an orderly, logical, and aesthetically consistent relation of parts. So that's a complex definition, but it basically just means that the writing is clear and simple to understand, coherent. Today, we're going to do a similar exercise with all of these words. So take a look. There's 22 words. How many of them have you seen before? How many of them do you not know? If you don't know the word and you're just looking at the list, it's going to be very hard to guess the meaning. However, when we see it in the context of a sentence or paragraph, we can infer the meaning by the context. So let's begin. Number 1, nocturnal. Can you infer the meaning from context? The remarkable success of Simon Weber's book on owls, bats, and foxes and other nocturnal creatures, A Call in the Dark, is probably not surprising in view of the popularity of his recent television series, Night Animals. Wow, that's a lot of information. He wrote a book called A Call in the Dark. It's similar to his television series called Night Animals. We look at the animals, owls, bats, and foxes. What do they have in common? All of those animals come out at night. So, what does nocturnal mean? Of, relating to, or occurring in the night. Most active at night. So nocturnal creatures means animals that are active at night. Oh, by the way, feel free to write these words in a notebook so you don't forget. I think that would be very helpful. Sites. On first glance, it kind of looks like cities, but it's sites. In addition to describing his own findings, he cites the research carried out by others, including Wright and Lawson in the 1990s, and discusses where they might have gone wrong with some of their assumptions. So we're talking about research. When you're in school and you need to write an essay, how do you give credit to other people's research? You cite the research. We can see here, it means to quote or to refer to. So, cite is a verb. He cites the research carried out by others. The next one, stacks. The room was extremely untidy, with stacks of books and piles of paper all over the floor and unwashed coffee cups on the tables. So we can see that stacks has something to do with books and paper. Well, there's piles of paper and there's stacks of books. So if you know what piles of paper means, then you can probably guess what stacks of books means. Stacked is the word that we use to talk about books that are layered one upon another. So it's an orderly pile. Yeah. A synonym could be a heap. You could have a heap of books or a stack of books. Feet. These are not the feet at the bottom of your legs. This is a totally different feat. This is a remarkable feat considering the complexity of the subject and the science that is often involved. Okay, this. What is this? Something to do with science, and it's also complex. So what could it mean? Feat. Well, it's essentially a thing. This is a remarkable thing. This is a remarkable feat. But the definition of feat is here. An act or accomplishment of great courage, skill, or imagination. Something that was very hard to do or accomplish. Climbing Mount Everest is a feat. Completing this research paper is a feat. So how did I infer the meaning of that? Because I knew it was about science and a complex subject. Prolific. He was an extremely prolific author, writing 3 or 4 novels a year, as well as many short stories. What kind of word is prolific? It's an adjective because it describes a noun. He's a prolific author. And the second part of the sentence tells us more information about him as an author. He writes 3 or 4 novels a year. Do you think that's a lot of novels to write in a year? I think it is. So prolific has to have something to do with writing a lot of novels, right? Here's the definition. Prolific, producing or characterized by abundant works or results. So yeah, somebody who writes a lot is prolific. Arduous. The journey across the hills was long and arduous, much of it having to be done on foot in temperatures of over 40 degrees Celsius. You may struggle with that pronunciation, arduous, arduous. So it was a journey. Was it an easy journey or a hard journey? It was hard. So arduous, meaning something that is very hard, difficult, demanding great effort or labor. 7. Forage. Foxes are a common sight in our towns and cities, where they forage in dustbins, in gardens, and on waste ground. Okay, so we can see that this is a verb. Foxes, they forage. Okay, so what do you think foxes do? What kind of activities do foxes do?
Do they read books? No. Do they make videos? No. Basically, foxes just search for food. So that's what forage means. To wander in search of food. So foxes are foraging in gardens. Elusive. The cuckoo, that's a funny name, the cuckoo is a rare and elusive bird which is often heard but rarely seen. Okay, we look at the other information. It's rare, it's often heard but rarely seen. So elusive has something to do with a thing being hard to see. And it's also an adjective because it's describing the bird. What kind of bird? An elusive bird. So elusive means difficult to define or describe. Elusive. Exhaustive. Number 9. The research they carried out was exhaustive. So by the time the project was complete, they knew everything they had to know about their subject. Okay, so it's an adjective. It's describing the research. And the second or the latter part of the sentence shows us that they did a lot of research. They knew everything about the subject. If you know everything about a subject, that means you spent a lot of time studying it. And that's what exhaustive means. Treating all parts or aspects without omission. Thorough. Exhibiting all the facts or arguments. Exhaustive. Now, this list of words that I'm presenting, it's not an exhaustive list. There's thousands of English words that you probably don't know, and I probably don't know. A lot of native speakers, they don't know all the words. There's just too many. But even me, if I don't know the word, I can infer through the context. It's very rare when I see a new word, but I cannot infer the meaning. I can usually do it, but sometimes not. Sometimes I got to use a dictionary. Number 10, mediocre. The hotel we stayed in was a mediocre place, with small rooms, rather dull food, and an unsurprising view of the car park. Okay, mediocre describes the hotel. Adjective. What other information do we have about the hotel? It was small, the food was not good, and it had a bad view. So we cannot say it was a beautiful place. It was not a pretty place. It was a mediocre place. Of ordinary or undistinguished quality. Synonym, average. Mediocre hotel. Imperative. Water is essential for human life, so it is imperative we make sure that in the future there is enough for everyone. Can you guess the meaning of imperative? Try to use some of the techniques we talked about. Okay? So it means necessary or urgent. Something that must be done. It is imperative that we preserve our water. So this is the first part of the video. We did half the words from nocturnal to imperative. And the next 11 words are going to be in another video. I encourage you to watch that one as well. Check out the playlist for the vocabulary course, because each video has a different tip, different focus. And I really think that if you focus on some of these techniques, you can improve your vocabulary quite a lot. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Good luck studying. Hello everybody, welcome to the video. I'm so glad you could join me today to talk about confusing words. Confusing words are those that have a similar meaning but are used in different contexts. There are also some words which look similar but have a different meaning. Additionally, some words look similar and have a similar meaning. So this is the topic for today, confusing words. And before we go on, make sure that you subscribe to the channel and like the video and share it with a friend who you think would like to improve their vocabulary. Let me show you an example of a confusing word. So the first one is aboard, abroad. Have you heard these words before? Let me show you them in a sentence. More and more people go abroad for their holiday. That means they go on holiday to a different country. They go abroad. In 2002, she became the first woman to travel aboard the spaceship Discovery. To travel aboard something basically means to travel on something. She traveled on a spaceship. So today we're going to go over some vocabulary. We're going to learn all of the words and see them in a sentence. Then we're going to make our own sentences. And at the end of the video, I'll show you how you can practice on your own. And I'm also going to add a quiz as well. So I think if you watch this whole video, it's going to be so great for your studying because it's quite long and we're going to go over a lot of words here. Let me show you the list of vocabulary. We're going to do aboard, abroad, action, activity, advice, advise, affect, effect, appreciable, appreciative, avoid, prevent, beside, besides, canal, channel, conscientious, conscious, considerable, considerate, continual, continuous, control, inspect, criticism, objection, damage, harm, injury, during, for, while, however, moreover, injured, wounded. So as you can see, there's a lot of words here. So that's why this video is going to be a little bit longer. And I'm going to put a quiz at the end so you can have extra practice. Now, how can you follow along with the video? I think that you should get a notebook and you should write down all of these words right now. Pause the video and write down the words. It's going to help you later on in the lesson. But other than that, you can simply watch and listen and try to absorb the information. So we'll go to the first one, aboard, abroad. As I told you, aboard is an adverb. It means on a ship, train, aircraft, or other passenger vehicle. While abroad can be an adverb or an adjective, meaning out of one's own country. So let's look at some sentence examples. More and more people go abroad for their holiday. In 2002, she became the first woman to travel aboard the spaceship Discovery. The next one is action, activity. Action and activity are both nouns, but they have a slightly different meaning. So action is the state or process of acting or doing. Something that is done or accomplished, a deed. A deed is a thing that's done. Whereas activity is just the state of being active. Energetic action or movement, liveliness. Okay, let's look at an example. Now these words are very similar, I will say that. We decided to take immediate action when we realized there was a problem. The environmental changes in the area are the result of human activity. Okay, so why is the first one action? Well, it has to be action because that's something that is done, right? And they need to take action to solve the problem. The environmental changes in the area as a result of human activity. That means human activity, the state of being active. Like I said, these two words are very similar. But another tip I forgot to mention is not to remember the definition of the word, rather remember the word in its proper context. Remember the phrase, we decided to take action. we have to always say to take action. We can't say to take activity. All right? Number 3, advice, advise. Pay attention to the pronunciation difference here. Advice, advise. So advice is a noun, whereas advise is a verb. So the noun, advice, let's look at it in a sentence. He offered me some excellent advice. The second sentence. Yeah, he gave me advice. He gave me something, a noun. The next one. Can you advise me on the best course of action to take? Can you advise me? That would be a verb, an action. Please advise me. So that's the difference. Okay, next one. Affect, effect. This is something that even native English speakers struggle with. I'll admit that there's been times when I was writing an essay or something and I needed to look up what the difference was. So they're both nouns. An important thing to remember is that effect with an E is something that has resulted from a cause. Whereas an affect can be something that you feel. It's like a passion or a sensation, something inside. Whereas an effect, a lot of times it would be outside of the world. I mean, outside of yourself, in the world. Let's look at a sentence. Diverting the course of the river will have a major effect on the local ecosystem. Frequent traffic jams in the suburbs seriously affect journey times into the city. Now, the second one is talking about people, so we use affect. The first one is just talking about what will happen to the ecosystem, effect. So a good way to remember that is affect is more about people and feelings, effect is more about the outside world. Appreciable, appreciative. This is tricky because they are both adjectives and they kind of look the same. But they actually have a totally different meaning. So appreciable is when we're talking about an amount of something and it's large enough to be seen, perceptible, estimated. I can say, she has an appreciable amount of debt. How much debt does she have? An appreciable amount. It's large enough to be estimated. Appreciative has a different meaning. It means that you are showing appreciation, basically like saying thank you, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. So she gave me an appreciative hug. So widening the road made an appreciable difference to the flow of traffic. Right. The applause at the end of the concert was warm and appreciative. Avoid, prevent. Both verbs, so it's kind of tricky to know the exact difference. But avoid means to stay clear of, to go around and away from something. Whereas prevent means to stop something from happening, right? So it's a different meaning. Let's look at an example. Rapid international action managed to prevent an environmental disaster from taking place. So they stopped something from happening. There are areas in the city that are wise to avoid after dark. Avoid. Don't go to that place. Go around it. Avoid. Beside, besides. Although they look the same, they have a totally different meaning because beside can be used as a preposition. At the side of, next to. I live beside my friend. The grocery store is beside the mall. Besides with an S is an adverb. It kind of means and or also. Let's look at a sentence. The company's main office is beside the railway station. preposition. Beside. Besides their regular daytime job, many people do extra work in the evening. So in addition to their regular daytime job. Another way to say that would be people work during the day and in the evening. But here it says, besides their regular daytime job, many people do extra work in the evening. Briefly, shortly. These are both adverbs. So briefly means for a short duration or period of time, whereas shortly means in a short time, soon. When are you going to come to the cafe? I'll be there shortly. How long were you an English teacher? Briefly. Shortly before the earthquake began, many animals were seen to be behaving in an unusual manner. She spoke briefly but passionately about the need to help those in developing countries. Number 9, canal, channel. A canal is kind of like a river, but it's built by humans and is used for travel, shipping, or irrigation. A channel is when you're watching TV. You go to channel 29, channel 28, a TV channel. Some examples. A canal system joined the two main rivers, which made transporting goods much quicker. When television first became popular in the early 1950s, there was only one channel. Okay, number 10, conscientious, conscious. This is also one that might be tricky even for native speakers. They're both adjectives. They sound similar, but they have a different meaning. Conscientious, controlled by or done according to one's inner sense of what is right. So to be conscientious means you act in a way that is according to what you think is right. It's kind of like morality or ethics. Conscientious, you're thinking about doing the right thing. Conscious, adjective, having an awareness of one's environment and one's own existence, sensations, and thoughts. So we are conscious human beings. We know about our environment. Dogs are conscious too. They have sensations and thoughts. A trickier question, are plants conscious? We don't really know, to be honest. So let's look at an example. Most people are conscious of the need to protect the environment. We are aware of the need. We can perceive it. We can sense it. Conscientious workers should be rewarded for their hard work. So people who work hard and they do what is right, those are conscientious workers. Number 11, considerable, considerate. That's tricky because these words look similar. They're both adjectives, but they have different meanings. Considerable, large in amount, extent, or degree. A large amount of something. I have a considerable amount of homework. Considerate, having or showing regard for the needs or feelings of others. I care about other people. I am a considerate person. Let's look at some examples. In my opinion, some people are not very considerate of those around them. Yeah. A considerable amount of money was spent on developing the product. Number 12, continual, continuous. This is tricky because they look similar. They're both adjectives, but they have a different meaning. So continual means recurring regularly or frequently. So I have continual headaches. I get a headache once a week. I have continual headaches. Continuous, uninterrupted in time. It never stops. It's always going. I can say, I have continuous headaches. My headache never goes away. I have continuous headaches. Which one is worse, continual or continuous headaches? The computer system has given us continual problems ever since we installed it. Some days it works, other days it doesn't. The continuous noise from the motorway has forced many people to move. Control, inspect. Two verbs which look different but have a similar meaning. Control means to hold in restraint, to exercise influence over someone or something. I control you. I tell you what to do. I control you. Inspect, to examine carefully and critically. Oh, I have this beautiful book here. I want to inspect the book. I want to see what's inside. New teachers often find it difficult to control their classes. Environmental health inspectors regularly inspect commercial kitchens for cleanliness, especially those in restaurants. Criticism, objection. Two nouns which have a similar meaning, but they sound different. So criticism is a critical comment or judgment. So she gave my video lots of criticism. Objection, a formal declaration of disapproval concerning a specific point. Excuse me, teacher, I have an objection to your teaching methods. I have no objection to people using their mobile phones on buses or trains. Plans for the new stadium have attracted fierce criticism from local people. Damage, injury, harm. Three words which are all nouns but have a slightly different meaning. Damage, destruction or loss in value, usefulness, or ability. Ah, I'm sorry, but your reputation has received damage. Injury, damage or harm done to or suffered by a person. Ah, I was playing basketball last night, but I got an injury. I hurt my wrist. Harm, physical or psychological damage or injury, immoral or unjust effects. You have caused a lot of harm at this company, so you are going to be fired. He suffered a serious injury which needed immediate hospital treatment. See, the injury, it's to somebody's body. He suffered an injury. The low levels of dangerous chemicals in the river were enough to cause harm to aquatic life. So you see, the harm was unjust effects, immoral. A lot of damage was caused to buildings along the coast during the storm. So damage, it can be for a property, like a house or a other kind of building. It's not really for a person. Injury is for person. Next, three words. During, for, while. During, a preposition, throughout the course or duration of time. So I can say, oh, I never paid attention during grade 12. For, used as a function word to indicate purpose. What job did you apply for? What are you here for? While, a period of time. Not throughout the course of time, just the period of time. While I was in grade 12, I didn't pay attention. The college closes for 2 weeks at the end of December. He died while trying to cross the desert alone. Many creatures stay underground during daylight hours. Moreover, however. Moreover is an adverb, as so is however. And the way I remember it is that moreover is kind of like and however is kind of like but. So let's look at an example. The plan was good in theory. However, in practice, it was extremely difficult to implement. The plan was excellent. Moreover, it was clear from the beginning that it was going to attract a lot of interest. Injured, wounded. Injured is receiving an injury, which we already talked about. That means something has happened to your body. You received an injury. Ouch. Wounded is suffering from a wound. A wound is different than an injury. A wound is usually more serious, worse. So wounded means you suffered from a wound, especially in battle, like a war. Let's look at an example. I believe that we should do more to help and support soldiers who have been wounded in combat. Several workers were injured when the drilling platform collapsed. So for the soldiers, the first one, we can say wounded and we can say injured. But wounded is better because wounded is more specifically about combat, fighting. So how do you practice? Well, like I said, write all the words in a notebook and then be creative. Compose a sentence using each word. Use a language exchange app to talk to people and try to include these phrases in your messages. You can use italki or HelloTalk. Those are good. Finally, reach out for affordable lessons with me. I'm working on making a website, but it's not finished. So you could just send me an email. I will attach the link in the video description. Okay? So you probably need more practice for these words. So I'm going to include a short quiz. It's going to be just multiple choice. I'll show you a sentence and the part of the sentence will be missing and you have to choose which word goes there. So without further ado, I will show you the quiz and good luck, If you have any questions, you can always leave a comment. I reply to every comment, so I would be happy to talk to you, all right? So good luck on the quiz. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Superior virtue has no intention to be virtuous, and thus is virtue. Inferior virtue cannot let go of virtuosity, and thus is not virtue. Superior virtue has no intention to be virtuous, and thus is virtue. Inferior virtue cannot let go of virtuosity, and thus is not virtue.
So this is the second part of the lesson 7, which is about meaning and context. So I broke it into 2 parts because there's just too many words. We're learning all of these words. In the first video, we learned from nocturnal to imperative. And now we're going to learn that second column, implement to outset. And what we're doing is looking at the paragraph or sentence and trying to infer or guess the meaning of words that we might not know. So how do we do this? Well, we can ask, what is the paragraph about? What is the sentence about? And what information comes before and after the word? And what I like to do is consider the word's function. Is it a noun, an adjective, a verb, an adverb, or something else? All of these considerations give us important information so that we can infer the meaning of a new word. So I just need to skip ahead here to number 12, implement. Can you infer the meaning from the context? Attempts to implement change met with strong resistance at first, but gradually people realized that this change was needed. Implement is a verb in this sentence. We want to implement change. What does that mean? We need some more information. It said it was met with resistance at first. So at first people didn't like it, but eventually they changed their mind. So implement means to put into practical effect, to carry out, to do something. Next word, burden, number 13. Many men say that they are willing to share the burden of domestic duties like washing and cooking, but I doubt that they mean it. Okay, so the burden of domestic duties. What is the burden? Something that is emotionally difficult to bear, a source of worry or stress, a weight. So if we want to share the burden, it means we're going to do this task together. Sway. The building is designed to sway slightly in strong winds, but it's still a rather frightening sensation when you are on the upper floors. So it's a verb, sway. What does a building do in strong winds? It goes back and forth. So to swing back and forth or to and fro. The synonym is just to swing. Swing slightly, sway slightly. Prohibitive. Many people would like to own a house in the city center, but prohibitive property prices mean that very few of them would ever be able to buy such a place. So, what information do we need to consider when we're inferring the meaning? Well, they have property that they want to buy, but they can't buy it. How do we describe that? Prohibitive. It says so high or burdensome as to discourage purchase or use, something which makes it difficult to buy. Prohibitive property prices. Fringe. The city center has some beautiful old buildings, but there are some extremely ugly industrial estates on the fringe. So when we see the word but, we know that we're kind of talking about something, it's almost like the opposite or in a different case. So we know it's not the city center. What would be the opposite of the city center? Well, that would be kind of the outside of the city. That's called the fringe. A marginal, peripheral, or secondary part. On the side of something. On the fringe of the city. 17. Initiative. Employees are encouraged to use their initiative when they are faced with a problem, and there is nobody more senior there to help them. Okay, use your initiative. We know it's something that you use when you need to solve a problem. So can you think of another word for something you use to solve a problem? It's kind of like power or ability. To begin or follow through energetically with a plan or task. determination, an opening move, initiative, to start a task. Hinder. I'm worried that a lack of suitable qualifications will hinder my search for a job. Hinder my search. So she doesn't have enough qualifications, right? So will that help her chance to get a job or hurt? Yeah, hinder means hurt. To stop someone or something from making progress or developing. Jeopardize, jeopardize. Although it's spelled P-A-R, I always pronounce it P-R-A. Jeopardize, jeopardize. I don't know why, but that's the standard pronunciation, jeopardize. Have you ever played the board game Jeopardy? Research was going well, but there was a risk that cuts in funding would jeopardize the entire project. So research was going well, but. So but kind of entails like the opposite. So what's the opposite of well? Poor or bad. It means to pose a threat, jeopardize, present a danger, to threaten something. Flimsy. The villas were basically flimsy wooden huts that shook every time there was a bit of wind. So if there's wind and your villa shakes, do you think it's a good house? Is it built well? No, it's not. So flimsy means not strong, not well built. Optimal. Although several species of turtle can be found in relatively cool seas, warm water provides the optimal conditions for breeding. Okay, so is warm water better for turtles or worse for turtles? Well, it's better. So the optimal conditions mean the best conditions. The best or most suitable within a range of possibilities. Yeah, they can live in cold water, but warm water is optimal. Outset. From the outset of the expedition, they knew they were going to have problems. So it was no surprise when only 2 days later, things started to go very wrong. Okay, what does that mean? Well, expedition is kind of like a project, or it could be a journey, an adventure. 2 days after it started, things started to go wrong. So 2 days after what? After the outset. So the outset is the beginning, right? The beginning of something from the outset. They knew they were going to have some problems. So from the outset. That's the end of the words, and if you want to practice, remember to watch the first video too. I broke it into 2 videos because it was just too long. And write the vocabulary in a notebook, and then create your own sentence using each phrase or word. Put away your notebook and complete the quiz, which will be linked in the bottom of this video. And if you don't mind, just subscribe and like the video. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, because I love teaching English and, I would love your support. So that's all for today. I hope that you learned something, and good luck studying.